You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die,
Men who mean just what we say. The brave men of the Green Beret. The wings upon their chest. These are men, America's best. Marcus! Marcus! I was this far away from wanting to wear a beret in my life.
We used to have berets. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Kim, I saw a picture with a Vietnam guy was wearing it.
Dude, they told me, what was his name?
Remember that?
I thought that was so cool.
Dude, they totally.
Trying to figure out how to wear it when you're like 7 years old.
Yeah. When they pulled those away from us.
Who was there's that one book.
We were at Bragg. Did you ever feel like for a second there, like, man, can I just stay a little while and finish Robin Sage? Kind of, because
totally,
they were doing
dude.
sub ops. Like, I want to get my Dolphins, but when you're tabbed over, that's the one thing we don't get. We just get our caduce.
That's it.
Yeah, but the guys who go to Ranger School, remember they wear theirs under their lapel tag, and you can't really appreciate that part of it until you're overseas in the box and you have to do a joint op and you walk in, you speak Green Beret.
Right,
or
totally.
speak Ranger, and it completely opens up the door for it, us being the bastards we are. But
I'll tell you what, my experience over there was while I was in the team was the most miserable in the world, right? Because here I am, an undesignated E4 at the place, and there's Rangers that have 15 years. There's SF guys with 8 years, and I got nothing. And the respect I have for kind of how they run things was planted in. And so fast forward when I was with the agency, and getting to work with those guys. And there's one dude, man, the combat chassis, man, he got a Silver Star. He did 20 some odd years at SF, and just the efficiency with how they do things has always been just incredible to me, Right
away.
It is interesting to go and see, because there's a cultural divide, and I don't mean any kind of disagreement or rift, but there's just different ways that two communities do things. And when you have that cross-population, you get to see the advantages of they do some things better than we do. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? We do things better than they do. But being able to see, hey, you know what, we could improve that by, doing it that way.
Well, we're not scared to steal some ideas from the
anybody.
We will rob, pillage, and steal every opportunity. Do not get me wrong.
It's one country, but two different tribes.
Yeah.
And it says community, speak different languages. Same way, it's military. That's a great part about it. I mean, that's the patches, the uniforms. Like when you walk into a room, the first thing we always scan, right, is that BDU resume, like what you're dealing with. And the Green, they love their tabs.
Yeah, they do.
They do, boy.
They love their PowerPoints.
Dude, that's low blow. That's low. Well, welcome to the TNQ podcast. I'm your host, David Rutherford, with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell. We're also here with the Wizard. Am I getting better at? Does the music behind it still sound cool? Do we need to shift it up?
I'm growing to appreciate it. It's
we
an
get
acquired
good at this
taste.
and have the soundboard and everything. You can throw the Wizard theme song
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For
Ain't no
sure.
attention behind the man.
Yeah.
Put the big curtain right there.
And when we have video, every time we reference him, we'll reference the old Wizard of Oz dude behind the cream. Would you dig that?
Yeah, it looks like a voting booth curtain. So well hidden.
Those were the effects back then, dude. Hey, bro, dude, because this is kind of an America story or show today. Dude, what's up with the Eagles on the property?
Are they great?
Dude, someone posted one of an up close
Oh, they got
one.
a picture of it. Yeah, it's not up close. That's the expanded lens, but they're, yeah, man, they're great. Two of them, male and female. I named them Phylon and Myrtle.
What? Wait, what?
I
again?
had an Uncle Phylon and an Aunt Myrtle when I was growing up.
I had an Aunt Myrtle.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah, Aunt Myrtle. So I named them Phylon and Myrtle. They're great, man.
You named America, right? You named America Phyla and Myrtle.
Phylon
Phylon.
and Myrtle, yeah. They're great, man. They're around all the time, and I don't go anywhere near them, but they feed out of the pond over here,
Right.
which there's no shortage of food for them out there. We got 4 hawks, all those owls now, and it's something. The other day I was walking out of the back porch down towards the barn, and normally they post up. There's that dead tree over there, the tree of death, if you call it. Well, they'll post up, and then the big pine tree on the other side, and then they also post up on the one right outside, so they have the vantage of the entire pond. I didn't see him in there. I wasn't even paying attention, really, and I was walking down to the barn. This is the first time I ever felt like a field mouse. I mean, like what it felt like to be prey. So I guess he didn't see me coming either, and I had walked underneath him, and he came out of that tree, and I just hear this, I mean, a big gush of air, or air leaving, actually. You know what I'm talking about? Just the area I was in. Then the shadow came over the top of me, and it folded down, and then it opened back up, and I'm not going to say I completely bitched out and screamed and hit the deck, but I was like, I kind of turned around and looked at this thing, man, coming down, and they are
Massive.
impressive. Yeah, man, they're beautiful, amazing predators. And that sucker came down and swooped over the top of me and flew back up to that other tree over where Myrtle was. And
Phylon Buzz the Tower. Huh?
yeah, Phylon Buzz the Tower.
Dude, that's beyond cool. You know,
I wasn't
that?
ready for it. You know, when something happens, even as trained up as we are, when we do have our guard, I was out in the middle of nowhere. I'm at the house, right?
Yeah,
I shouldn't be attacked by a 3.5 foot
This is,
bald eagle.
This is not Africa. They're not predators lurking at all. I mean, maybe snakes, right?
Yeah, I wonder if he had it in his
That's
head
what
if he was
I'm
going to try and
looking at
grab the snakes. Yeah, they're
Snakes,
out and
yeah.
running now. Just I told you the 2 king snakes I saw breeding down there looked like a python. When I came around the corner with a lawnmower, I was jamming out. Like, there's a python in front of me right now. That can't be right. I'm in Texas. Maybe the heat's getting to me. But it was 2 king snakes wrapped up mating, and that was intimidating. Oh, Mr. No Shoulders. I mean, they just, I don't know what it is. I know they.
What is it about snakes?
Yeah,
man?
it creeps me out.
If you're a first-time listener, I hope you realize what we have to go through. The danger out here at Marcus's ranch in order to put this show on for you. We are always skirting death. We are on the edge of the Reaper's blade every day bringing
Wizard
this
almost
shit.
steps on a copperhead every time he goes out.
Literally,
on the driveway.
Hey, you're not kidding, man. I don't know what it is about me and Copperhead down here, but I think I've killed. I don't.
And the coyotes are bad too.
We just saw one of those,
the
too.
The rain pushes everything out, and this is the high ground, so
They come up.
they're coming.
Well, welcome to the show, boy.
Noah's
we got
Ark of danger around here.
Still leave the door
Noah's
open,
Ark.
right?
Yeah. So, welcome to the show. Man, if we got a doozy for you, you're going to love this. If you want to know more about, I left out the wonderful people who keep coming back all the time. Man, we love you. If you're back, you're a repeat offender. If you love America as much as we do, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much. Without you, we would not be closing in on 6 million downloads. And we just are so thankful. If you guys have any interest in knowing more about us or what we're doing, visit our website at tnqpodcast.com. That's tnqpodcast.com, where you can figure out why we're doing all this, what's going on. You can also read our incredible submissions. We have hundreds of listener submission stories that are posted on the page. You can ask us questions that we'll probably end up reading on the show at some point. And you can buy swag, baby. You can buy swag, Marcus.
It's here.
Swag, Marcus. Swag time. We've got t-shirts, and we're also working on hats and coffee mugs and other things for you here in the future. You can also follow all three of us on social media. Marcus is at Marcus Luttrell. I'm at Team Frog Logic. And Wizard is surprisingly on there, which is a blessing. And you can look at it, this brand new table he built. Just go at The Wizard TNQ. Search that, and you'll find
Just
us.
in case the podcast fails.
Yeah. It's a safety net.
This is his
I'm
backup
developing this
plan.
constantly.
This is his backup plan, right?
Is it level? Does it do one of these? When you put your elbow
Dude,
on,
him?
right?
You think he would
Right away.
have? You think?
Where's it at? Melanie's been wanting me
It's
to
in
do
my
this too.
apartment.
I've been watching the sword forging. But that seems like a lot of work smashing
Forged in
steel.
Fire. What is it? Forged in Fire.
Forged in Fire.
Well, dude, our guest is on the offshoot of that show, right? With
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Goldberg,
that's right.
dude.
That's right. It's pretty amazing, man. So it's peaceful, right? It's what
Yeah.
when you're
it's
doing
that
Yeah.
peace of mind.
working with wood
It's
in your
really great
hands.
to create
Yeah,
things as
the-
opposed to destroying. And it's also more difficult.
What do they say? You don't.
Nice
it's not
point.
that you're,
That was freaking deep over there.
you don't
dude.
create it.
Nice.
You just cut away what was already there, or how
Triple A, sculptor's
right,
mindset. Yeah. It's already there. You're just pulling the
You're not
pieces off.
creating it. It's creating
Yeah.
you. And
God, look at what? Wait, what? Hold on. You guys are putting me in a existential moment right here.
we were talking about that. Good gosh.
Good gosh. All right. Wizard, man, tell us about this cat because his resume is insane. Too lamb.
All right, so Tu Lam. Let's start where the beginning of his story, where he was born in Vietnam.
Wow.
The U.S. pulled out March 1973 in involvement in Vietnam. He was born in Saigon. He was following when the NVA took over, they started executing everyone that was on the other team, so to speak. His family, many of his uncles were involved in the opposition against the NVA in different capacities. Many of them were executed. The persecution was massive. At some point, his grandfather used the money he had left over to smuggle to his mother and his brother out of the country. And hopefully he goes into some detail on that because that's a very interesting story.
Huge.
It's
Tuck never quit, man.
Yeah,
Whoa.
transitioning from Vietnam, refugee camp, I believe it was in Singapore, eventually lands in the United States in the Vietnam.
What'd you
area,
it's,
Fort
you know what it
Bragg.
is? It was pawn shops and strip joints.
Used car dealership, tattoo parlor, pawn shop.
Repeat.
Repeat in those strip
Repeat,
malls
yeah.
from the 70s, man.
Lemon lots. That was the best thing to get to do station, heading over to the lemon lot and get a gem.
Oh, dude.
A gem.
Bro, I remember they had this. The first club they opened when I was there, Club Neo, right? And I went over there, bro, and I was minding my own business when the freaking bouncer came up to me. We were in there like 12, 15 dudes. And the bouncer comes up, minding my own business, not doing anything. The bouncer comes up and is like, yo, you got to go. And, big, black dude. And I'm like, why do I have to go? He goes, I've been watching you. I know what you're doing. You got to get out of here. I'm going, I beg your pardon. I'm not doing nothing. And he comes over, he goes, right now, let's go. And he grabs me. And so every Friday, did you do hand to hand every Friday with Weiland? Remember that dude, the old Green Beret badass, right? He would beat the snot out.
We had to get up every morning and do that stuff.
Oh, dude, just Fridays for us. It was crazy for you then. So he had just told us this way how to get out of a headlock where you smash the inside of the knee on that nerve. The guy falls, you slip out, and then you smash in the back of his neck, break his teeth on the way down, neck and all that. So I'm like,
Sounds like an opportunity.
oh, right? Dude, training evaluation. I got to do a real run. So he puts me in this headlock after a few choice words, me being the gentleman I was, and he's moving me towards. So it took a while to click in. I'd added one or two, right? And I'm moving towards the door, and I said, So I start whacking this guy on the inside of his knee. Well, mind you, he was a big dude, right? So I'm whacking him, and I'm not hitting it because my mark is off. So finally, we get close to the door. I hit it. He starts falling. I forgot the whole slip out of it part, right?
Rest of it.
Right? So on the way out,
it worked.
so on the way out, my head catches the aluminum frame of the door, rips me wide open, but you couldn't tell yet. So we're rolling around. The other bouncer in the entrance jumps on me. I'm trying to, inch my way. I get out the door, and just then my one buddy, Will, who had seen me, the other medic, comes running out, and my first platoon comes running out, and he looks at me. His eyes are bug-eyed, dude. What he'd seen, I had a puddle of blood around my head. That was gigantic, dude. He immediately strips off his shirt, goes to render aid.
So what he sees is training opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
To do
You see how this happens, right?
BSI, see the safe.
It's
Totally,
all,
you
it's
can
all
see him
part of
process.
the job.
That's it.
So he goes to hit me. Next thing, my other buddy, Doug, comes out, tackles the two of those. We scuffle. Now it's a Mexican standoff, right? 10 of us versus 20 of them, whatever. And they're like, meanwhile, no one of us has ever tried it, nothing. So we get kicked out in a heartbeat. They said, we called the cops.
Exactly. So now another training opportunity. E&E.
Yeah. So we bolt, go back to my buddies. We keep, obviously, but the blood is somewhat stopped now. Drink until 4 a.m. Finally, I look at my buddy, and I'm like, hey, Jay, dude, how do I look? And he's like, dude, you're jacked up. He's like, bro, you need some stitches. Let's go back to the barracks. And we had one dude, Mike, who was there, who didn't go out with us. But, dude, his stitches sucked. I would watch him when he was doing so. It's like, we walk in, he opens, he's like, oh, bro, horrible, dude, right?
Eyelids, so much this doesn't look right.
One look at my head, and he says, I'll be right back with my suture kit. I look at Jay, I'm like, dude, let's go to the hospital. We go to the hospital. I walk in, Air Force Hospital, right? Finally, the doc comes out. I'm trying to be tough guy, frogman. I'm finally sober. What'd you do? Oh, we were wrestling in my buddy, and I hit the corner of his table. He's like, sure. He goes, okay. Meanwhile, the 18-year-old E2 just walks in. He goes, looks at him. He goes, hey, staple that dude up for me, will you? He staples me up, Marcus, and he doesn't roll the scalp.
Yeah.
Bro, I had a skim flap that was almost 5 centimeters
blew,
wide,
it
right?
made a noise.
Dude, I had that for the rest of training, the next 6 months. Oh, dude, I had to wear it in a helmet. It was miserable. So that's my Vietnam story. Sorry for the interruption.
A lot of good training opportunities in there.
Oh, that's on-the-job training, man.
Yeah,
that's
right?
how I learned how to do those stitches. I'd carry my truck everywhere, man. Just
Totally.
you always got to stitch somebody up.
How many eyes did you stitch up?
I tell you what, man, Barbara, we were at, I forget what bar we were at, and I wasn't even out. They called me. They're like, hey, bring your bag. First they said, hey, come to the bar. Come out. We're all having a good time. I was like, nah, I'm tired, man. Like, nah, come out. Everyone's here. Bring your med bag. Like, all right, I will. For our audience, some of you need to know that our guys have a fascination with knives. A couple of them like to have them out and flip them open and twirl and whatnot. And he flipped that Spyderco out, that blade, and it came out of his hand, went through his shoe, and stuck in through his foot into the floor. So I show up, man, and there's actually the group of girls they were hitting on. A couple of them were doctors.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, you need to do this. So I show up, man. We sit down in the bar, take some Crown, clean the wound. Little baseball stitch and get on about my way.
Oh my God. Meanwhile, everybody's like, what the?
Doing this in the open? I'm like, oh yeah.
What else, dude?
What else?
I love it.
How good do you get it? How good do you get it at giving IVs just trying to rehydrate after being wasted?
One of the PJs,
Right?
yeah, one of the PJs.
Or giving yourself an IV.
He would give it to himself
There's nobody else around.
in his SAF while he was drinking. So he'd be walking around the compound in his PJ Sweetie shorts with an IV in his SAF, which is down by the ankle, and a 6-pack of Corona. And I walked out of my room one Sunday morning, and he was passed out in the hall. It's not in a building. The hallway's outside. And he's just got those Sweetie shorts on. The IV bag was full of blood.
Exactly.
And there was empty beer bottles. He couldn't get into his room, and he passed out with that IV open, bag filled.
Oh my
America's
God.
finest.
That was America's finest.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Absolutely,
America.
right there, bro.
That's what your taxpayer dollars are going for.
Right?
All right. What else you got
Man, that
on
was a lot of
Tulane?
fun.
Oh, man, too. Sorry we had to throw that in your bio, bud. All right, so after this incredible transition from Vietnam, his aunt marries an SF soldier who helps to expedite paperwork, and eventually him, his brother, his mother as well, land themselves in the U.S. near Bragg and Fayetteville. His mother then eventually marries an SF soldier who becomes a stepfather and probably, I mean, it seems like a big influence in his life, as well as really kind of getting him interested or set on the path toward, soldiering and in the military and whatnot, teaching him various skills, navigation, language. He mentioned in an interview. At 18 years old, he initiates his military career. He goes to infantry training at Benning, comes out of there, is assigned to a LRP, an amphibious assault unit, decides to go to Ranger School, and then at 21, he wants to go through SF training. He completes that, is assigned to First Group, Okinawa. Then he's assigned to a SIF team, Commanders in Extremis Force. He then returns to Bragg at USASOC, and of course this is the height of all of our involvement, OEF, OIF. He works with some select units there at the top, and he works for somewhere in 14 years. It's a little hard to get the track on that. Right. We'll maybe get some details on him from that. Eventually moves on from the military, but maintains this mindset, the
Ronin way.
That's right. This expansion into the martial arts mentality and disciplines and all that. He founds Ronin Tactics. They
makes sense though, right? I mean, what is a Ronin? It's a warrior without a leader or master, right?
Yep.
So
right.
Stepped away from the military. That's stepping away from your guard and walking the path. The Ronin, right? Walking out and trying to expand on all the knowledge and everything you'd picked up from the.
You're going to love this because you went through a lot of that stuff too with your guys. Yeah, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, with Ronin, they have multiple, I mean, they do training. They actually have a weapons line. They have gear as for attack harnesses, belts, and whatnot with that. So that is a big successful venture that he's been involved in. That really seems like his baby. You check out all of, you see this whole mindset really come through when you're investigating his background and involvement in that. One more point, he's currently involved with the History Channel on a show called Forged in Fire, Knife or Death, as a subject matter expert regarding their edged weapons, because that's a big part of what he does in his training is edged weapons. So,
all right, what do you say, gents? Let's get this guy on. It's gonna be awesome. Silver wings upon their chest. Marcus, man, I know you know that after me screaming the ballad of the Green Beret in the opening, after that I got up on my feet and I was in the 4-point stance, I was ready to jump into the breach of the ultimate warrior mindset. I knew you were ready. I knew you knew I was ready for our guest today. And this guy, I'm telling you what, brother, he brings with him the complete package of the warrior mindset. He brings with him the complete package of discipline, of Zen, of that Zen state of mind, but a Zen that's covered in these wonderful, beautiful scars of his warrior principles that he's ready to bring forth to the people that are still on the front lines, day in and day out, bringing the fight to the enemy. This is that guy, brother.
It's a lot of people they don't understand that when they hear about our communities, they think all the guys are the same. Like once you make it into the program, in Green Beret, we're all kind of the Mark I motto. But there are the guys in there
that stand out.
Yeah, that drag us through the
right?
warrior path, the ones that walk that to kind of give you an idea in case you don't know how exactly it's supposed to be walked from birth on. So when you have one of those guys that has walked that gauntlet, man, and
continues to walk it, right?
It's truly a blessing. This is going to be a good one.
Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast. Tulam, brother, thank you for being here.
Zymus, thank you for having me on.
Dude, I got to tell you, man, just been following you since you came out, that you were on social media, that I became aware of you. You know, one of the first, you know, another really intense guy that we've had on from your background. We had Pat McNamara on, and Pat is this wonderful ball of energy, but yet at the dichotomy of Pat is that he likes bird watching, right? And he's an artist and he plays guitars and then, you know, and then right? He plays drums and he does funny videos with Wes Whitlock from Rogue and you know, and then, you know, I found you and I was like, my God, he has all these different dynamic attributes that we all really felt would just be a tremendous benefit for our listeners. So, man, it's just so good to see your face there on Skype, brother.
Thank you. Thanks, brother. I love it. Thank you for having me on.
Cool. All right. Now, before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this and we dig into your greatest never quit stories, you know, as just a true master of the things that you teach, man, what we got to do, we got to get warmed up. We got to warm up that prefrontal cortex. We got to warm up those memory neuroplasticity. We got to warm up and be prepared. Yeah, he's stretching out right now. Literally stretching out. I love it. So what we're going to do, and you know this phrase better than anybody, we're going to go put you through the mad minute. So are you ready, brother?
Yeah, let's do it, brother.
All right, Marcus, fire away.
All right, who's your favorite superhero?
Batman. Because Batman doesn't have a superpower besides his mind, right? So because he mastered the mind and mastered deception, unconventional warfare, it's got to be Batman.
You know what? Anybody who says Batman, well, any team guy or SF guy that we have, they always go into that description, right? It's like, because he doesn't have powers, but he's got a badass brain.
Ben Affleck nailed it. He had the best lines, like, what's your special power? He's like, I'm rich.
I'm rich.
So if you know if a team guy throws Batman out, and we next thing, if he becomes a billionaire, stand by, right? Because there's going to be something coming down the pipe. I just want to be on the team. If you're starting the Justice League.
Well, and we got the Space Force that's coming out too, so I love it. All right, we'll talk about that later.
Space Force, that's right. I forgot about that.
All right, Wizard, fire away.
All right, if you could pick a sidekick to accompany you through life, would you pick A, Chewbacca from Star Wars, B, Tonto with the Lone Ranger, C, George Costanza on Seinfeld, D, Watson with Sherlock Holmes, or Walter from The Big Lebowski?
That's a lot of friggin' choices. What was the first one?
Chewbacca.
See, Chewbacca, you got to clean his shit up, right? Because all his fur will fall everywhere. You gotta,
that would be a great scene.
Yeah, or a lint brush around you, because that's fucker cat all over you. So,
Oh my God, dude, he sheds like a Labrador.
you know, I would think Tonto, man, because he made the Long Ranger. You know, he was always the smart one. You know, Long Ranger just wanted to gun people down, and Tonto's like, you know, he's the master tracker. He knows the people. He knows the location. He knows the terrain. So Long Ranger, he wouldn't have been shit without the local.
That's true. I always thought he was cooler than the Lone Ranger myself.
He was way cooler, right, dude?
Yeah.
The dude wore like a baby blue outfit, right? And then an ascot. And Tonto's looking at him over there going, what an
He was
idiot.
always clean. He was always clean, right? I mean, normally when I ride a horse just from the gate to here, I'm filthy as hell. He never got dirty. Excuse me.
Awesome. All right. Here we go. If you had to pick who would win in a cage fight between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, who would it be?
Oh, come on. I'm Asian. So, you know.
But you're also a Green Beret, and Chuck is the ultimate Delta guy.
But Chuck Norris has those cheesy lines, you know what I mean? Just shoot the guy already. He has always these cheesy lines. He's always late on that movie, Delta Force. He was late on his bike all the time. You know, the guy couldn't be on time. So, have it, Bruce Lee.
Waiting on the guy again.
And I think
Same
because it
names.
already happened on film too. That's an easy one too.
If anybody asks me about the thrusters on the C-130,
Yeah.
we all have those.
Yeah.
Every C-130 has the boosters up the dirt runway. We're gonna make it. We'll make it.
Don't you
Where'd
guys
those come
get the
from?
missiles on your motorcycles?
Right. Hey, first time in the stand when we ran across you guys and y'all, we were like, they broke out the ATVs and motorcycles. I thought they were gonna have rockets on them. I was young, so I was like, I know you guys got the rocket motorcycles.
Dude, no. My favorite was we went. 19th group was next to us in Kandahar, and I went over to their compound to talk about some intel stuff with them. And dude, they had a full blown jingle truck, but inside, like it was like a full, like they had a weapon bunkered like over a thing in the back.
A Mission Impossible
bro,
truck.
Dude,
Yeah.
it was that. I was like, that's cool, man. All right, Marcus.
There's one thing about special operations, man. We got some cool toys. There's
Right. We do, man.
Oh, absolutely. The DPVs, dude. I drove those. We look like Mad Max and shit.
Yeah. The best part about, and it doesn't matter how long you're in, the best part about checking onto a new team, the gear issue. When you find out new gear swag's coming in, there's a line out the door, right? And you're just in your locker, you're like, man, I know I got 9 watches, but I need 15 of them.
All right, Marcus, fire away.
All right, what was your first car?
Oh, an El Camino.
No
Awesome.
way.
The Camino.
Yeah, so my dad, he's a white, special. I was adopted, and he had these El Caminos, and I thought it looked like shit. I'm trying to get the girls, in high school, and it's half truck, half car. It's driving around. I got picked on in high school driving around the El Camino, and every time I lived in Japan when I was first with the teams, and every time I came back, I had the El Camino that I had to drive around town in. And it was ridiculous.
Man, I've seen some of those. They do them up right.
Oh,
the 70s. Couple of
that
them.
pinstriping,
funky looking, but that
the
hard,
gold leaf in
sharp
the front.
nose and everything
Oh,
else.
it's one of the
So,
baddest cars
yeah.
ever, dude.
El Camino, the front looks like a car, the back looks like a truck. The front is where you drive, the back is where you El Camino.
Oh, that was where'd you
That was
pull
good.
that
Where'd you
out,
get
bro,
that one?
dude?
Man, the archives.
You pulled that out.
That didn't
deep,
sound made
man.
up.
That wasn't like a wizard statement at all.
You see how
That-
he said it? Like
He's
he's been
all-
sitting
had
on that
swagger
one.
and
All right.
shit, dude. You've been waiting to say that. All right, wizard, fire away.
All right, let's see. Give us one or two. I mean, notice you have quotes all over Ronin Tactical stuff there. Give us one or two of your favorite quotes.
A journey of 1,000 miles began with the first step.
Love that.
Yep, very
That
cool.
was one of my favorite quotes. Know your enemy. Always know your enemy. I think the best quote that helped me out spiritually after the war was, by Miyamoto Musashi. He says,
Greatest swordsman ever.
do not look for strength outside of yourself. Everything is driven from within. All the energy, all the power, all the passion, all the love, everything is from within. And you know what really was unique about that phrase was when I picked up the Book of Five Rings in the year 2013. He wrote in the year 1645 in a Buddhist cave. And when I read that, because I was looking at strength exterior, right? I was looking for strength from my father. I was looking for strength from my teammates, and what I found was I wasn't looking for strength within, So when I did, that's when I became Ronin. That's when I started my next evolution.
Wow.
I had to read the Book of Five Rings too when I was a young boy, and it does, man. It's impactful. And that quote where you just know yourself or know your enemy, and then know yourself, and in 1,000 battles you'll never know defeat. So one guy, both those you said, just to climb a mountain, you got to start at the bottom.
I think that answer is the perfect way for us to kind of pivot now. And thank you for, humoring us with our Mad Minute. We love that the most, but the real reason why our listeners are coming to this show too is because they're in their own combat of life. They're on the battlefield. They're lost. They don't know which way is the front line. They don't know which way to retreat. They're lost in this perception of really despair. And so we want to do this to try and help them at least give them something that triggers that, intestinal fortitude to start moving in the right direction. So if you would, please, for our listeners and for us too, would you please share your greatest never quit story or stories?
Well, we, as being on the teams, you guys know, we have our struggles, through selection, through, being assessed, being on the teams, being assessed, accepted on the team, going through some of the rigorous training we go through. And then in times of war, those are, always a challenge, but that's our job. That's what we do. That's what we're trained to do. That's our chosen path. But if I was to say my never quit moment, it's my life, man.
Wow.
My life was it's a lesson, and each evolution of my life has its own unique never quit stories. So, I was born, when I talked to you about, the journey of 1,000 miles began with one single step. Well, my first step was one in war.
Wow.
I was born in Saigon, Vietnam, before the fall of Saigon. So I was born in December 74. Saigon fell in 75. The North Vietnamese came over. And, you guys know the doctrine. Any opposing government that's going to come in, they're going to take out the leadership. They're going to take out the education. They're going to take out the officers. Well, my uncles were officers, and they were imprisoned. And my family's drug out in the streets, gunned down like animals. So we escaped on a wooden boat, and unique stories about this journey is that first we had to escape through like the piracy that was going on around, Vietnam, because everybody was leaving Vietnam. You think about Syria, everything's going on in Syria in the modern day. Everybody was trying to leave Vietnam, but the neighboring countries didn't want to deal with the issues. They didn't want to deal with the North Vietnamese. So we made our way by boat past the piracy. The pirates, what they would do, or the bandits, very much like Somalia, they'll board the ships, kill everybody on board. That's a threat. Take the belongings, kill the kids, rape the women, kill the women, So we somehow navigated past that. And we went into Malaysia, off the coast of Malaysia. The Coast Guard, the Malaysian Coast Guard stopped us. They shot at our boats. And we're on like a wooden boat, like a one single fisherman boat,
Wow.
Stuffed by hundreds. And we came on towards the coastline. The Malaysians shot at us. They anchored us on, and then they had 3 boats that they anchored on. So you imagine all these refugees are trying to escape Vietnam, and they pulled us back out of the ocean. The 2 boats that they anchored on the outside, we were the center boat. The 2 boats kind of collapsed. They came in, so hundreds died during that initial pull. They cut those lines and they drug our boat to deeper into the ocean, shot our engine, cut the line, and left us there to die. And my mother said, we drifted. People started dying. They started to throw dead bodies over the ocean. She's saying that it was really, truly, guys. You think about our SEER training that we go through. It's seriously a survival moment. They ran out of water. Somehow they got caught up in the storm, and it washed our boat deeper into the Pacific Ocean, and somehow we went into Russian-owned waters, right? And then a Russian supply boat passed us, and they picked us up. And I think the unique story behind this was, of course, I can't remember everything that's going on. I was so young, but the story stuck with me when I was growing up, And what I realized was that the same ideology, the same people that took me out of my country, the communists, right, that took us out of our country, was the same people that saved me.
Wow.
Right? And gave me a second chance. So at a young age, I realized the lesson of humanity, and that echoed through my whole life as a Green Beret. But yeah, we escaped on a wooden boat. The Russians boarded us on a boat, took us to the docks in Indonesia, where we stayed at a refugee camp ran by monks. And my aunt married a American Special Forces lieutenant, a Green Beret, and he was able to expedite the paperwork to get us over to the United States, which I was raised in North Carolina. I was raised in Fayetteville, right outside Fort Bragg.
Vietnam, man. You left Vietnam and went to Vietnam. Huh?
And that was back in Vietnam
transition.
days.
Vietnam days,
Holy cow.
Brag.
But so that was my first never quit, never quit survival, but my second never quit was being raised in Fayetteville. Because, you think about, like, when I tell people about racism, people, kind of roll their eyes, but they didn't deal with it, man. They didn't deal with the harsh realities of racism, because I arrived in the United States post-Vietnam in the biggest military base in America, in the United States, right? The biggest military base. So I was raised around that mindset of, you're a fucking commie bastard, right? Which they don't understand, that it was the communists that did more to me than they would ever do to these Americans. They ripped my family apart. They took my freedom, and here I am being harassed by these kids calling me Charlie, calling me communist and stuff like that. So I was raised around that atmosphere, but my father was an American Green Beret. And he taught me, discipline. He taught me a lot of that stuff. So when I was 8 years old, I was running around the backwoods in North Carolina, navigating the stars. I was speaking different languages. I was learning how to take apart weapons. And I was trained to be a Green Beret. He didn't mean to, but that
was his life.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? How did your mom meet him? And can you describe that? And what was that like? All of a sudden now, you're in this military base. You're struggling with the racism of these dumb kids, and then all of a sudden now you have your first dad is this warrior guy. What was that like, and how did it happen?
It was very hard, man. Like and when I was growing up, I kind of didn't see the teachings. I didn't understand, because you're a little kid. You're 8 years old. But I woke up to Ballad of the Green Beret every morning, and we had a flagpole.
I knew that's why I sing this before every time. It was just for this show. I'm telling you, sorry. I get fired up over it, because I am partially Green Beret. I am an 18 Delta, so Marcus and I have a particular love for you.
Yeah, we're bastards.
I love for the SEALs too.
Yeah, we're the stepchildren.
Yeah, we are.
But yeah, I was raised and raising the flag, putting my hand over my heart. I was raised singing Ballad of the Green Beret. We could not wear blue jeans to school. I had to wear slacks. All of my homework had to been typed. He was very strict, very strict. My mother, on the other hand, was very traditional. She was, I would say that she's my strength.
Wow.
Right? Because there was one moment when I was 8 years old, I was coming home from one of my friends' home, right? And she was driving. There was this white guy pulled up. He was redneck. And he made the slanty eyes at her. He honked the horn, made the slanty eyes. A real racist.
Yep.
She drove him off the road. Like she almost hit him.
That's awesome.
And what's funny is she can't curse because she's half Vietnamese. So her cursing is like, you fuck her mother.
Missing the
she'll
nuance.
reverse the cursing. Like, oh my God.
Mother bitch. You mother bitch. Been called that one before.
Awesome. Now, I want to, before we keep going on this storyline, you said your mom was very traditional. Was she teaching you that tradition while your stepfather was unwittingly? I mean, obviously, I know if I were to have a boy, subconsciously, why won't he be a SEAL or a Green Beret or something? But your mother wasn't imagining that. She was just trying to instill. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with this. Did she try and anchor your Vietnamese heritage in you all the time as well, even though you were feeling the pressures from the external Americanized
That's a good question.
world?
So I try to be Westernized. I try to fit in. And a lot of times when I was in school, my name wasn't the same. I didn't look the same. We didn't come from money. We were kind of poor. Being in the Army, my dad, he didn't make that much money. So, we got picked on by the rich kids. But my mom always taught me the Bushido way, the essence of Budo, which is the art of war, even though she didn't know. Like I would go to the temples and pray to my ancestors for honor and strength. And I still do it to this day. Every time I come home, I would go to the temples and pray to my ancestors for honor and strength. And give vision. So in that heritage, she raised me with the Bushido, the ethics. My father gave me the skill. My father gave me the vision, the skill, the hands, to wield the weapon. But it was my mother who gave me the discipline.
Very cool. All right. When was the moment for you where it was like, I know you, from a very early age, you probably, I've read some couple of interviews with you, and you knew your trajectory was into the military for sure. But what was it like? What was it like in the moment where you're like, I'm going to MEPS, I'm going to the recruiter, I'm signing the contract, and I know there wasn't really an X-ray program back then. So could you describe that for you as it related to your world in that moment in age and time?
Well, during the early 80s, we're fighting the drug wars. The special ops guys were going to South America, Central America, fighting the drug wars. So my dad went to El Salvador, and he was fighting those drug wars over there. And I remember him leaving, coming back. He never told me what he was doing. Special ops was truly special ops. It was hard to get any information out of my dad, out of anybody. There was a neighbor. His name was Joe Lupiak. He was a Sante Raider.
Wow.
And, he was part of the Blue Boy element. And he kind of took me under his wing. My uncle, remember I told you my uncle that expedited the paperwork to get us over, he was an officer with the Special Forces as well. So as my dad was gone, I was getting life lessons from these legends in the community. I grew up to that. I grew up to these guys that influence our history in Special Forces.
Wow.
And I would say I knew at 12 years old my destiny. Because I was being picked on all the time. I knew my past because my mother won't let me forget it. She always talked about the struggles. And I wanted to make an impact on this world. I wanted to be the force that went overseas and protected the innocent, the people that were me.
Right.
The that didn't have hope. I wanted to go overseas in these villages all around the world and help, because my father was doing that in Central America.
Wow. Now, what I love so much are the stories like you two, who people that come from the other places that join special operations because they understand the depths of which our cultures are built upon, right? That we do assimilate all cultures effectively into the mindset that is at the tip of the spear, and we're open. I remember, I being around guys from all different walks of life, and for me that was the greatest blessing, because I could openly learn from different cultures and be able to consume that in order to become a better frogman. So it's really I love that aspect about us.
That's why we're so hard to beat, man. Americans, we're mutts. We're made up of everybody.
For sure.
When you're standing across from us, man, you don't see one color or one height or weight or anything like that, man. We're made up of everybody.
Oh, and I believe that they're the best at it. I mean, you guys, the Green Berets, that is the essence of who you are as a force, right? Is to assimilate into those cultures and to develop the hearts and minds and the intel networks and really utilize those indigenous fighting forces. What was it like the day you went into the service? Did all of the racism end in your mind? Were you now on your this deeper, truer path? Did you feel a sense of relief, or was it just like, wow, this is huge?
It was huge, I was academically gifted, like being any Asian.
Not here, not me.
my brother, he was raised the same way as me, put his hand over his heart, raised with the flag. I do want to tell you this story, though, before I get into this, is my father installed the no-quit mindset at a very young age. Mm-hmm. We had a lake that was 2 miles away from our home. And you have to run through the backwoods of, Fort Bragg to get to this lake. And he would make us take off our T-shirt at the 2 mile point, dip our T-shirt in, and then run back. So he knows that we went to the lake, right? My brother would try to bribe me all the time. He'd say, because I was a good runner back then. He's like, take my T-shirt, fucking dip it in there, I'm done. And I remember my dad, man, he always talked about, if you want something out of life, you have to give 110%. And life won't always come easy, and this little 2 mile run is just a snapshot of who you are. It's going to give you I am as an individual, as a person. Right. So at 18 years old, my mother, her mindset is, she got everything taken away from her during war.
Right.
Everything was ripped from her. Her family was murdered. Everything was ripped away from her. Her brothers are in prison. So she never wanted this life for me. She never wanted me to go to war. She never wanted me to. She escaped Vietnam so I could have a better life. But I chose my path to help others, and I knew that this is the way. And I remember going to Raleigh MEPS, signing up. My GT was 130, so they were like, hey, you can have any job you want. What do you want? I'm like, I want to jump out of airplanes and be. And they're like, oh, okay. So what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be an airborne ranger, right? But I signed the LURS contract. Remember the LURPS guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first assignment. I was part of an amphibious LURS team, and I went to the Marine Amphibious Reconnaissance Course, Fort Story, Virginia.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
And then I made my way during LURS, but I wanted more. I wanted to do more than just lay underneath the ground and report intel, which was great. It got my communications, I understand satellites, and I understand a lot of that stuff at a very young age. So when I went to the Special Forces, I got to the teams at 21.
Wow.
I was the youngest on the team. Back then it was no SF baby.
Yep.
And I made it out.
2000s, some SF babies. That was 2000s,
I think so.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did my minimum time on the LURS, and then I went over to the Special Forces, and my mother hated it every step of the way, man.
Quick question, though. It's also, yes, she had this one component, this complete fear of war and what it can do to a family, what it can do to, everything, how destructive it is. But she also attached herself to war by marrying your stepfather, and then as well as, being in the culture, living in Fort Bragg, and, obviously she somewhat supported the evolution. Did you see a shift in her when you finally put on the Green Beret?
No. No, she hated it. The more elite I got within the military, the more she hated it. Not that she understood what the hell, it meant, in certain units, but she did not like that I was going to war. She did not like that I was gone for so long without communications with the family. Because, sometimes you travel.
What mother does.
You're working different jobs where you can't call home.
Yeah.
So
that was the only time I hate saying lie to your mother, but I was saying, Mama, when I'd call home, she's like, what are you doing? Is it dangerous? I was like, no, I'm typing on the computer, just doing some PowerPoint stuff. And then the first time I wound up in the hospital, she's like, you can't get hurt typing in a day.
I love it. No, Mom, I was always training people. Mom, I'm training people, right? People. All right. So, as now you're part of Special Forces, and obviously it said, I'd read that you'd worked in some other places in Southeast Asia, but you knew, man, the real fight is going on Iraq and Afghanistan. As your development, your focus kept pulling you closer towards that, the intensity with which war was happening in those regions, where were you at in the development of your code, of the Bushido mindset? Was it a very focused thing like it is now, or were you still entrenched in the evolving culture of the Green Beret mindset, the Green Beret mission?
But, you think about back to the teachings of Miyamoto Musashi, the Book of Five Rings. You think about his teachings, he breaks it down to the element of earth, right? The element of earth and ground is to ground yourself in the teachings. So that's selection. That's the teams. That's us training in the teams. But there was one time where I was consumed with fire.
Wow.
I think that we all had that at one time. Hate.
Yep.
To meet our enemies on the battlefield without fear. That's the teachings. But I got to the point where I lost myself in the element of fire because I hated so much. So when I was home, there was no balance. There was no balance with the family. I wanted to hone my skills, and I wanted to be the most lethal person that I can train myself to be, through mind, body, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was after 14 years of it, it caught up with me.
Wow.
So I had to find my balance, which is in the teachings of Musashi. He talks about water. And Bruce Lee talks about water,
Right.
but didn't understand that until, when I retired, because I had to find my peace, and to find your peace, you have to look at things differently.
Amen. We recently had Jose Sanchez on. He's a Marine that, wonderful guy, amazing fire. But he was really the first person that came on and talked about that hatred, talked about that anger as this blackness that tore him apart and really, really blinded his ability to see into the void, right? And I know one of the books talks about the book of void and the book of that Zen principle. Can you describe what you did in that transitional process after, 14 years of really being at the tip? I mean, really doing the mission that was the mission in everybody's eyes. What was the void like for you and the recognition like, man, I've got to get this out? And what was your starting point? What was that first step in that step of the thousands for you?
Well, all of us lost teammates. We lost our friends. There was times where I would sit down at dinner and have a conversation, and I'm more focused on the mission than having a conversation with my friend, not knowing that would be our last conversation.
Wow.
If I knew. So those became voids in me, moments that I could not have back, conversations that I could not have back with my brother, So through loss and war and hate, I had a big void. I had an emptiness in me that I didn't realize, and the void transcend out to hatred in myself and in others, And what I found was in the teaching of Musashi and in the teachings of Budo and Bushido, the void is an emptiness, and you have to approach that emptiness with empty eyes. That means that, we all been on the teams, so we have a certain discipline, we have a certain mindset, right? And my mindset was fire. And I had to approach the void with a new mindset, empty eyes, right? Mm-hmm. So I let go of the hate. I meditated. I got off the prescription drugs that, was prescribed to me. On the teams, we get hurt all the time. And the medical practice back then was to give you as much painkillers to put you on the fucking battlefield. Because they need you to be on the battlefield.
Period.
So they care about your health, your mental state. So they're giving you all these Band-Aids, right? And I performed well on the battlefield. I just could not perform well in peace. And I realized that I had to find my peace again. And I need to approach this void with a new mindset. And that's how I did it.
And all right, and I mean, this is really powerful moment for me, and the three of us talk about that now very much. In particular, Marcus and I, because we're no longer attached to any of it at all, and we joke about being podcasters, but part of our progression towards that peace has been to find the peace that we feel within ourselves. When we get the emails from people telling us, hey man, your show saved my life. Like last year alone, we got 8 emails that people said they were committing suicide when somehow they found the show. So I think for us that translates into, okay, the path we're on, what we're doing, although 180 degrees different physically in that emotional state, we're still on a similar path of servitude, but it's just through a different visionary process. Can you describe what you did specifically to start looking at the world with empty eyes, to start the process of servitude without having to be on the front line?
It's in our DNA. That's what we do. So I felt disconnected to the teams when I first came out because I'm no longer part of the teams anymore. I moved on to my next evolution, but I have to be well. I have to find my serenity. And how I found my serenity, like past warriors, samurais, was, in their youth, they're grounded in earth, right? In the teachings of war and Budo. And then when you get to the teams, you prove yourself on the teams, and then finally you go to war, you get that experience. Well, this is where the path goes to the intersection for the warriors is, do you continue to walk down that path? My path in this evolution is to be a writer, to be a educator, to teach others my experience. And that's truly the way, if you study the way of the martial art, that's truly the way. Bu-do means the art of war. It means the study of warfare. Bu means intercepting the spear. Do means taking your life experience and giving back.
Wow.
So in the process of Budo, in the process of studying war, when I got out, I started writing a lot. I started breaking out some of the journals that I wrote during my war years about loss, and I started sharing my thoughts online. That's where you see, the Instagram and stuff like that, because that is my modern day communications. Like samurais in the past, they would write in their journals and their books. My path is to share my knowledge and my experience with others, and hopefully, like you guys, help. The people that are in need. So I found my spirituality by helping others, by sharing my deep rooted thoughts, my philosophies, and also my lethality. I travel around the United States. I teach what I perceive as the good in this world to protect the innocent, right? And that brings me my serenity in my life right now.
Wow.
It's hard for a lot of guys to make that transition, and I think it's important when you start at that young of an age, when your path is or it's not laid out because you're making your path as you go, and when you walk that dark side, I think some of the problems we have is we train so hard and then we fight so hard, but then when we have our time off, we're still training, or you're looking into something to make yourself better. And as you walk that dark-sided path, always remember on the other side of your head, if you make it to the next point, it's supposed to be complete peace. So you need to focus on that as well, and not get it's hard. It's not hard. It's easy to get engulfed in that way of life and let it consume you throughout your entire life. But when you step away from it, you completely step away from it. I mean, I write too, and we work in the garden and cut the lawn and stuff like that. And it's just the memory of what it was is what you're thinking about while you're out there cutting the grass or something.
Well, it's funny because I when I'm sitting here looking at 3 incredibly accomplished warriors in my that I know, and I'm meeting you now, and I hear these stories about peace. And for Marcus, he gets out on that mower, man. He works in the yard. He does that, and you can see the peace. Like I go out and laugh at him, but in my heart, I'm saying, my God, he's peaceful. And when I'm out speaking, I can't even tell you how many times people come up to me. They're like, "Hey, Rut, what is Marcus really intense? Is he like?" I'm like, "No, dude, he's one of the funniest, peaceful guys I've ever met in my life." And the wizard, he just built this beautiful table. Like he built this wooden table and he sanded it and he posted that. And you said so before we started. You're really a quiet person. I watch your videos too with your knife training. I'm like, damn, that's awesome, right? But you're telling me there you meditate and you sit in your own mind and you have peace. And I think a lot of times people misconstrue, the path that they have to be in the warrior mind, in the fire all the time. But, the fire of life gives you enough of that. Too, how would you suggest that people find that peaceful path? What should they do to, give themselves some space to see their life with that blind eye?
With too much of something is too much. When you have, like yin and yang, you have to balance, the fire and the water. You have to balance those things. And for me, it's about living in the current moment. It's the state of Zen. This stage in my life, I have a Zen mind because, you think about the past, and if you live in the past, which I'm sure you've seen teen guys live in the past, right?
All the time.
They live in the past where they think about, oh, I was this, I was badass, whatever. That's living in the past. And then some guys think about, oh, what do I need to do to get rich and this and that? How can I be successful? Well, that's living in the future. See, because for me, it's about living in the current moment. Because when the future becomes the current, that when the future does reach you, that's the current moment.
Right.
So I live in true, here and now. I'm no longer worried about my past. I'm no longer worried about things I can't change in the future. I worry about my serenity and who I am today and what can I do today to make myself a better person. And usually that affects others. If I walk a path in my life right now and I say, hey, I want to help others, right? That brings me serenity, but it also brings help to others. And that was my path anyways. And even in my military career, it's just a next evolution of it.
Wow.
That downstairs, there's that pillow that sits on that chair. It's out of all the quotes I've read throughout my life and stuff that's motivated me, this one downstairs, man, is stuck in my head harder than anything. And it goes something that says, there's an old Cherokee chief, and he's talking to his grandson. He's like, grandson, there's a battle between two wolves that lives inside of you. All right. One is evil. It's anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, inferiority, lies, ego. And the other one is good. It's joy and peace and love and humility and kindness, empathy and truth. And the boy says, well, how do you know which one wins, grandfather? He's like, the one you feed. And throughout our lives, we feed both of those. Sometimes you're going to have to walk and be the man that you're not to become the man that you are. And some people just feed the evil wolf their entire lives and they ground out. And some people just feed the good one. If you feed both of them throughout your life, it gives you a balance. You understand both sides of that realm, right? So that's where the peace comes from. I mean, I'm working out in the garden and nothing can hurt me out there, but I know if something comes down the pipe, I can take care of myself and my family. And that level of confidence creates that level of peace. And it's not cockiness or anything like that. We've just been through it. We've walked that way our entire life. There is no stepping outside of it. Once you decide to walk the Bushido and walk that path, man, in the back of your head, even when you're young and we're out there stomping down on the ground out in the war, if we make it through this at the end of it, I'm going to be somewhere in complete peace, sitting around some water and writing something down.
Deep Thoughts by Marcus
just thinking
Luttrell.
about it. So that's kind of the whole thing you're pushing for. I want to be as crazy and going as hard in the paint as I can right now because I'm going to take it real easy when I get older. And then when they say after you sit there and you do that and you walk back through your past in your mind while you're cultivating your garden, when the teacher's ready, the student will appear. So then it's time to pass it down, and that's kind of the next level.
When I pick up a weapon, when I pick up a gun, it brings me back to that current moment. It brings me to that serenity. People are like, why are you always training for war? Because it's natural for me. I've been trained since I was 8 years old, right? So it's a natural movement that brings me to my current moment. When I wield that blade, when I pull that gun and I have concentrated on those fundamentals, I have to be in the current moment. My mind can't be floating somewhere else. So it brings me to the state of Zen. So that's why I still practice the arts, because it's very much a part of me and it brings me back to that current, like you, Marcus, you go out to the garden, it brings you your serenity,
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Your body tells you that. I mean, the extensions of our hands as we grow up, and they tell you, this is not a weapon, it's a tool. It's an extension that we're going to strap onto you. So if it's a pistol, a blade, whatever it is, we're the mechanism, and it's just an extension of us. And as you progress through the ranks and different things are put into your hand and you know how to operate it with success and efficiency, man, that hones in to the next step. And as you progress through life, man, the accomplishments that you have on both sides of that, the warfighter and the peacemaker, is man, it bonds it tighter than if you skip one of those steps.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is finding a code, right, to live by, especially civilians out there, because culturally things have become so diffused, right, that they're really kind of breaking down the essence of and the power of codes within as a framework for guiding, in particular, our children and within our society, all these different things. So, what in your mind is a great place for our listeners where should they begin looking to try and establish a code for themselves?
Unfortunately, where America's going, with the media, with the sports, and we don't have really good role models anymore. We have all these guys that are so opinionated, but they're opinionated about things that they're not willing to fucking pick up that gun and go and fucking serve their country, right? They're opinionated about things that they have no influence. Like, I hear, oh, these cops are okay. Then why don't you get on the front line and hold that line? Why don't you go overseas and defend our God and country if you're so opinionated? Right. So a lot of these guys that we grew up to now, they're destroying our country in their mental state, like bad mouth on our country, trying to take away certain amendments that we fought for, not them, that we fought for. And so I think that's the big thing is you need to have a good positive role model. My role models were the Special Forces Sante Raiders and, the, Mac V Saw guys. Those are the guys I grew up to. And I think, like, with society right now, I mean, what? Keeping Up with the Kardashians? I mean, what are we looking at on TV these days? So
right.
I would say pick a better role model and then aspire to be great and not be the drama that America seems like it's promoting these days.
One of the questions I get asked a lot, because in some of the stuff I teach, I'd say mentors play a massive role in our lives. And it's funny when I go out and talk, I'll go into the crowd and I'll say, how many mentors do you have? And I've got two. It's my dad and my uncle, or it's my mom. And all right, non-family member mentors, how many do you have? And the overwhelming majority is none. I mean, they might have someone that they want to be within their business, mindset potentially, but externally in the development of the body, mind, and the spirit. How do people pick good mentors? I get this asked all the time. In your opinion, what do you need to look for in a great mentor?
His ethics, his values, his vision on life. Because it's truly our ethics that guide us down the path, right? It was our chosen core values. It's what, we put our comforts aside, right, to walk down this warrior's path. So it's truly, you have to look at the ethics, right, of the person. Look at why they're doing what they're doing. So that's what I look for, the soul of a person.
Let's get specific on that question. I'd like to hear, if you had the opportunity, well, you do have the opportunity, let's have a couple examples of who people should specifically look at. You have, let's hypothetically say a 13, 15-year-old boy, girl. Who are you going to direct them, in your opinion? Go check them out. Look at this. Hopefully this will catch on. Hopefully this will ring true to you.
Influence.
Well, like a teacher, I'm a teacher now in my this current evolution, and I try to lead by example. Like everything we're taught in the military, we lead by example. We show others, who you are, and and the passion and the love that you have, right? And then if they have to choose to walk their own path. I can only show them, what I believe in my core values are. And I could point towards my friends, my teammates, the SEALs, whatever. I could point towards those higher levels, but it's truly up to them. You know, I can only show you by leading by example, right? And then from there, it's on you. Right. You have what it takes.
Awesome. All right, before we wrap up here, you know, one of the things we always ask guests are to leave a couple like igniters, right? Something that can trigger that fire in the gut, some type of some idea or a list of 3 things or whatever it might be. What could you share based on your daily routine? You've talked a lot about your life mindset and the way in the path. What are some core or a core idea that our listener, when they come off this show, that they say to themselves, today I'm going to have this to get me going down that never quit mindset?
Well, let's paint this picture first, so I could talk about. So, you know, we have in Japanese culture the sakura, which is the Japanese cherry blossom. You know, this is a seasonal flower that blooms, and in the warrior class, we look at the sakura as life itself, beautiful but short-lived, right? So, you know, I'm sure we can all say this. We've been there at the passing of some of our teammates. I seen it. So I saw the beauty of sakura. I seen the passing of that flower, that symbol of life, you know, as you know, he left this world. And so that symbol means a lot to me. You know, it has personal, deep meaning to me. So if you paint that picture, and now I'm going to put this mindset on you, is that you only have one life, and it's very short-lived. Okay? You can make it as beautiful as you want, or you can make it as less significant as you want. But when we're all old men and dying of our old age, did you live a life? Did you live a life of higher purpose? Did you make an impact in this world, you know, on your generation? Did you help make this world a better place? And, you know, that's the question I ask myself every day, is even though I'm in this current moment, what can I do to make myself better as a warrior, to complete my journey of 1,000 miles? And also, how can I influence others to be better, you know, better Americans, better people, you know? And I find that through my teachings. So what I to answer your question is, truly, you have to look at your life and look at what you always want to accomplish, and never let anybody stop you from that, right? Because it's short-lived. Life is short-lived, like sakura.
Amen. Well, geez, I mean, brother, I'm telling you, I just, you definitely didn't let us down. That's all some very incredible, heavy stuff that will definitely help our listeners. Where can people go to follow you, hire you, learn from you, start reading about your teachings, and then also what's next for you?
Oh, wow. What's next is, you know, we picked up that History Channel show.
Awesome.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Yeah, congratulations.
So, yeah, it did very well the first season. We were ranked number 2 in the History Channel. So, very happy with that. So, I'm very happy to work with Bill Goldberg again this summer.
All right, so where can people follow you, but more importantly, where can people start learning about what you're teaching? I think, too, you have some incredible information that will help just anybody that checks into it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. So I'm on social media at Instagram, Ronin Tactics. You'll see a red dragon. And I'm on Facebook under Ronin Tactics. You'll see a red dragon. That's the war dragon.
Right.
And then you can catch me at www.ronintactics.com for our gear and our training schedule and our travels.
Outstanding, man. I just, it is such a blessing to be able to have a man of your experience and wisdom, and the breadth of your never quit life story is, in my opinion, one of the best we've had.
All right.
You know, and we just can't thank enough.
Like have him out here so we just sit around all day and.
Oh, dude, let's bring him back on, but in person. Yeah. What are you thinking about?
Where are you guys out of? Where in Texas?
Outside of Houston,
I'll be in Dallas in November teaching their SWAT guys. But definitely, we're making it to Houston. So later on, early
man.
next year,
You come down
so
and teach the guys down there.
On my schedule.
Perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
We'll meet you down there.
Yeah, it'd be cool. All right, brother. Thank you so much. All the blessings in the world to you and your pathway to peace and harmony and what you're teaching. I think it's just such a privilege to have you on. God bless you and thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. But I've been looking at your podcast. You guys are definitely making an impact. Thank you for showing the way to our veterans and helping others people through their hard times, man. That's a higher purpose, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
One team, one fight. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
All right, arigato.
Arigato. Brother, seriously. I mean, you listen to that cat, Marcus, talk about the Book of Five Rings, talk about the art of war, talk about Bushido, talk about the codes. He's not full of shit, dude.
No,
You know what I
live in
mean?
that one.
Bro, we watch those fake kung fu dudes in the videos all the time when we're out here. All the people that are full of it, those sensei idiot. That dude is seriously a Ronin warrior.
Yeah, every now and again you will run into somebody who actually is the real
McCoy.
embodiment of all the lies you hear from all the phonies and everything
true.
like that. The great stories they come up with. There are guys in our community that actually live out every one of those.
Isn't that a trip?
I know. And being born is December 74, right before that's
In Saigon.
He kind of jumped through that whole part about being out in the middle of the ocean and someone shooting out the engine and leaving him. That's kind of a big deal, being stranded out in the middle of the drink,
To die after
And
his...
then the Russians pick you up, and it's what he said about one communist tried to kill him, one tried to save him.
Yeah. Isn't that duality interesting?
The duality of man is just...
Well, here's what
sometimes it's mind-boggling.
Here's also what's going on, right, Wizard, is here's a guy that was... the special operations, in particular Green Berets, had a major role in Vietnam, and we're still operating in those areas during that time, right, through MAC-VSOG, through some of the other programs. And all of a sudden he comes out of that and goes right back in. I mean, I think for me, that's what, like you said, Marcus, you can't make that story up. That's a true thing. And so the impact that it has on his mom is profound, and I love the way he still carried that.
Well, his
with
mother
him.
implemented the old ways into the new warrior status, which was what his dad was.
Yep.
You're talking about an old Bushido way with modern day tactics. That's what the Green Berets and the way they train and fight is just like the warriors back in the day. Carrying that path for as long as he has, and now passing it down. That's the great thing about it. A lot of people get so self-indulgent and they don't think about passing that stuff down, which is the whole reason why you learn anyway, so you can pass it down to the next person.
Well, we see it a lot. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that, and I didn't get the opportunity to ask this question when we were going, but he is such an interesting counterpoint to the whole topic of, particularly in Europe, there are many examples of the vulnerability of second-generation immigrants to terrorism, right?
Ooh.
The similarities there are very interesting in how he also suffered many of the
Atrocities.
well, not necessarily atrocities, but the ethnic discriminations, the racism, you're different because we fought you
here.
or are fighting you.
Yeah.
He went through that here,
Wow.
but
Good point.
he went the diametrically opposed direction of
Does it show, right?
fighting for his new home country, as opposed to what you see in these examples of becoming fodder for Muslim extremists to be sent out into
Well, he could have easily
terrorist
gotten
activities.
eaten up with that hate. And you get put in those
Exactly. So what
situations
happened?
right throughout your life, and it's easy to get consumed by that hate. I mean, eat all that up and think that this is I was dealt this hand, this is what I got to play. Well, man, not really. You can play that hand as long as you want, or you can fold, or you can and wait and play the next one.
Good point. Here he is coming out of war, goes in, is completely, abused for being different, but he had the grounding, right? When he talks about the grounding of earth was his stepfather. In the fact that, imagine if they didn't live in Fort Bragg, she didn't marry a Green Beret, they lived in Oklahoma or they lived in California, right? Imagine if he moved to San Francisco, she married someone else, and he didn't have that grounding, that mentor, that critical component of
it's
influence.
That mentorship and that
his mom kind of laid out his
as
way.
A young person.
Yep.
His
Gotta be,
path,
right?
his way. I mean, Bragg says right there on the sign, home of the Green Berets. I mean, you talk about getting dropped right into the middle of the. I just said it, what
The
word?
heart of American Special Forces.
Well, right. Everybody else on the outside, I mean, we want to be Green Berets or SEALs. You got to read books, and you have no idea what's real. You think you know what it's all about, but you don't. You know the deal. You get in there, and as soon as you start training, like, wait a minute, this wasn't in the documentary.
Fully immersed and embedded in the culture from that young age.
No choice.
I mean, he knew at 12 years old, this is my path.
Your uncles, and I mean, the same way with our kids. Imagine living in that environment with the guys, man. Sometimes you just get consumed by it, and being jerked out of his country and getting picked on. I mean, I'm sure that alienated him to just that life. I mean, if the kids were picking on him, who's he going to turn to? And turn to those uncles. What are they? They're Green Berets. 5 years old is fast rail. Come on, buddy.
And it's profound, in terms of his character and his character develop to come out of that and to really walk this way he speaks of. You think about how many kids, and to caveat off your point, Wizard, how many kids out there are alienated who don't feel like they fit in because of this, hyper, the way the next generations are trying to really put everybody into their own unique classification instead of coming under that one umbrella of being an American, being supportive of America, to support that dream of America and what that means and what it takes to say, you know what, I am different. I don't fit in per se, but I can go and find be a part of a positive benefit to society, to developing America as a melting pot, because it still is, to developing America's status as a democracy, as a place for freedom of speech, as a place for the Second Amendment. And it's just not happening because I believe people don't have the proper mentors, like he said, and they don't have the inspiration to tap into a book like the Book of Five Rings. They're just not being exposed to it.
Like he said, that our popular culture's focus, the lens of focus, is on unfortunate areas as opposed to where it probably ought to be.
Yeah. You're right. That's another
You're
good
right.
part about having mentors and people at the end of it. You can watch them. Because you see those old warriors like, man, that's what you do now. I want to hear some of these stories. And then you hear stories about him like, I would never expect that guy to be doing something like that. But that's the greatest part about it, is making that transition. And when you're in that life, man, you walk it as hard as you can. And that's the reward on that side.
That's true. And that was when he obviously spent a lot of time talking about developing that dichotomy, that Zen moment where you have the black side, the white side, your yin yang, creating that balance and not being so consumed by what he called the fire that you burn yourself out, right? And then your comment, Marcus, I love that quote with the two wolves, that Native American
chief talking to his grandson.
Yeah.
Battle of two wolves.
Showing that coming from a completely different culture than the Asian, Japanese, Bushido, all that stuff, right?
That's perfect. Way
that
you said
wisdom
that
crosses
good, yeah.
over. So I really liked when you brought that up.
That's how we're all connected, or humanity, right? When it's said differently, but
By different cultures,
right.
yeah, all the same
but
thing.
it's the same, yeah.
Amen. Well, that was one hell of a show, gents. I'm super fired up. I mean, that guy is amazing. If you're listening, this is your first time, man, you just got served a dose of what our mission is actually about. Walking the path, being on the way, discovering the tools that you're going to use in order to prepare yourself for a never quit moment that never ceases to end. We face them all the time, one right after the other. So if you're listening, I hope you heard that aspect from Tu's story. If you're back, man, baby, Marcus, dude, holy cow, man. They are serving us up in ways I can't even imagine. We're well over 5 million downloads now. We're closing in on our 100th show. I mean, dude.
It's coming, gentlemen.
It's coming.
And wait till you see what we have prepared for you.
Yes, and wait till you see what we have for you. So welcome back. If you want to know more about what it is we do and why we do it, please visit our website at tnqpodcast.com. That's tnqpodcast.com. You can follow each one of us, Marcus at Marcus Luttrell on social media, me at Team Frog Logic. And we finally, as we said, although he's been on now and he's beginning to free himself a little bit with his posts, you can find the Wizard at TNQ.
I'm looking for glimmers of positivity in the social media realm. And
it's there, bro. You just have to stop being so critical.
A glimpse from time to time.
Find the beauty in what it is, right? Not in the superficial nonsense, but in the beauty of how we connected. We can share our experiences. We can share what makes us smile. We can share in that peaceful state of mind. Like the table you posted, bud. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Just search the Wizard at TNQ. All right. What we're going to do now is, as we typically do, is we're going to end the show with a reader, with a listen. What we're going to do now is
We're going to do something.
We're going to do something.
Something about to happen.
Something's about to happen. And what's about to happen is a listener write-in story. And this one was perfect for the show. All right, here we go. This is from David. Great name, by the way.
Very original.
It's better than Wizard.
My dad's like, you gave him that.
Touche. All right, you with that.
I don't know if your name is Wizard.
No, bro.
Real life?
You'd
That would be cool.
behave
Like
your
Wizard
whole life.
Jones?
You would have to become like a
Actually
magician or some kind of wizard or
You better
team
be
guy.
pretty damn good at something.
That's almost as bad as Sue.
Yeah, you do have to be good at something.
Which is an interesting point. Does
That's right.
the name make the man or the man make the name? Do people
Ooh.
grow into
Go on.
Do people grow into it?
Well,
Chief Hooks, he named his son Steel.
really?
Steel Hooks.
Yeah.
Was he going to become Iron Man?
He's a tough son of a gun, though. Yeah, I mean, he's growing up. It's Hawaii, too. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes. So you know he's tough, right?
Gotta
With
be.
a name like Steel Hooks in Hawaii.
Oh, my God.
That's pretty cool.
Epic.
It is, right?
Is it EEL?
Yeah.
Steel as in...
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, David. Here we are. Back to your story. For starters, thank you guys for executing such a unique yet relatable podcast. The stories and guests you have on the show are consistent reminders that I'm not the only one facing adversity and hardships. I couldn't be happier to be part of such a positive community that is making an incredible impact through simple yet astonishing conversations. So for that, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I served in the 160th SOAR from 2010 to 2014 as a Chinook helicopter crew chief. I was blessed to be able to take part of some amazing experience with the most elite military forces in the world. After departing the very unit and company that molded me into the man I am today, I wanted to share my story and experiences as a night stalker with the world. There have been few books written about the unit, and those that have been written were done so from the pilot's perspective. I mean, let's face it, when someone mentions the Night Stalkers, they automatically think of the pilots. After getting out, I was determined to write a short story about the unique and pivotal role as an enlisted 160th Chinook crew chief. I began writing the short story after settling down in my hometown of Colorado. I was balls to the wall and wrote every night for the next 2 months. My short story went from 1,000 words to 10,000, and then to 40,000 words. My story wasn't so short anymore, and I became determined to write a book. Around the same time I set this goal in the summer of 2014, I was also beginning to cope with a missing link in my life. There was no more brotherhood. There were no more deployments. And in the comfort of the United States, I felt lost. I missed war. And I miss dropping off rough men in the middle of the night to ensure bad things happen to bad people. I relived some of my combat experiences in my sleep, and the one thing that helped me cope was alcohol. The book was sidelined, and the most important thing in my life was getting blackout drunk nearly every night just to ensure I was able to sleep through the night. In 2015, almost a year after I started writing my story, I had not written anything and was ready to end my life. I slumped down in a corner of my apartment while scenes from Black Hawk Down played out on the TV. With a 30-06 in my lap, I began to raise the long rifle to my mouth. Before I could reach the safety, my girlfriend walked into the apartment. I immediately started to cry. A rush of emotions pulsed through my body, and I had hit an all-time low. Over the next 2 years, this vicious cycle continued. I isolated myself from everyone around me and took everything out on my girlfriend, now wife. Toward the end of 2017, I still had not put pen to paper in pursuit of my goal of writing a book. I received horrific news toward the end of the year. My good friend, who I knew through my time in the 160th, had passed away during the Q course at Fort Bragg. Sergeant Alex DeLita was a dedicated 160th Black Hawk crew chief, and he would light up any conversation he was a part of. He wanted to further his career and started his journey through the SF pipeline. He was so close to completing the course and donning the prestigious Green Beret. Unfortunately, he suffered catastrophic wounds while on the HME range during the course. After hearing this news, a switch flipped in me, and I realized Alex could never tell his never quit story anymore. After learning about Alex's death, I put pen to paper again and was determined more than ever to tell my story about the greatest aviation unit in the world and what it took to get there. I began counseling and quit drinking. I began to write every day again, and 40,000 words turned into 100,000. I was on fire, and I could see the light at the end of my ambitious goal. At the beginning of January 2018, I completed the first draft of the book totaling 136,000 words and some 356 pages. At the time I've written this, I've been sober for 6 months. After several rounds of editing, I submitted the book to the Pentagon. The book is now number 5 in the queue waiting to get reviewed. I decided to write about my struggle transitioning out of the special operations community in the last chapter of the book. My hope is that someone out there going through the same obstacles will read it and see they are not alone. Through my struggle and journey, I have realized that it is not only important to never quit on your goals, but to not quit on your family or loved ones either. I'm grateful for my family, my brothers, and God for not allowing me to pull that trigger. Night Stalkers, don't quit. Wow, David, that's awesome, brother. Congratulations to you and your fight to make it through those dark days, through and come out to the light, and for having the tenacity and focus to write down your story to share with the world. You're a true testament to the vision, the drive, and the passion that the Night Stalkers preach and live by every day, man. I have so much profound respect for all those guys that I got to work with over the course of my entire career. So thank you. I also want to thank, too, for coming on this show, man. What an amazing individual. Powerful story of survival through perseverance, through training, through mindset. Man, you are one of a kind too, and I can't wait to get you back on the show. I am putting Book of Five Rings on my reading list, and I'm going to start reading that. I want to thank God. I want to thank Christ. I want to thank my girls. I want to thank my new girlfriend in my life for showing me the true path. I just want to thank, man, I want to thank all our listeners. Without you, we couldn't do this. You are the reason why we do this. Your stories you write in, that you share with us, is the reason why we do it. So thank you, but mostly you two. Gents, brothers,
yes, sir.
Thank you for the journey you've both been on. Thank you for coming on this journey with me and for helping me serve the greater good in a way I never dreamed of. So thank you.
Me too, bro.
Absolutely, brother. That's great that he put that pen to paper.
Right?
If you're bored looking for something to do that.
Creative.
Start writing. Because those guys have epic stories.
Oh,
Because a lot of times they're hovering overhead
They get to watch it happen,
watching
right?
it go down.
They get to watch it happen.
I mean, the play-by-play. And he's right, though, because the pilots are busy piloting. And when they got the gunners and doing everything, but man, when they got eyes down on top of us, the way those 160th guys scream in, man, it's just
Brilliant.
They drive those things like they stole them. But that's the way you have to do it in some of the situations, because you know how we won't run to where it's easy to get us out. We'll get our ass pigeonholed into a corner and be like, I need you down here.
And they almost never say no, dude.
Or they'll drop the sexiest things when they drop that bird right in the middle of a gunfire in between us and them, right? And they open up with that. Whoop. They flip that door. Anyways. Yeah, tell those stories. All of them, all you guys, man. That's the greatest part about our generation, man, is everybody has them. And the more they come out and you hear about them, the more it puts it together. Like you can kind of understand and how the whole dynamic of the system works, how we get things done as proficiently as we do. And with Lamb, man, it was just an honor to listen to another warrior talk about his path from the start to the finish, lining that out, and just kind of, even if the situation is different, it's all relative, right? I mean, the emotions that run through it and the situations that we get in. For him to have gone through all that and then do what he did is absolutely phenomenal. I agree with you. When you guys who came on to listen to this one, that's a good one. Keep that one down. And the Book of Five Rings, read it. And Sun Tzu, The Art of War, read that one too. It's worth it. And everybody else, man, 5 million downloads. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, we're headed towards 6.
Crazy,
That's
right?
a lot.
It's crazy, dude.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Thank y'all so much for that, man. It's truly been a blessing to walk among you. Really, it is. And thank the good Lord upstairs for giving me the life I have, and my wife for letting me have fun with you guys and do all this, man. I'm out.
Out.